All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Theorycraft Thursday.
Love the show.
Hopefully, I'm like a few weeks of saying it right in order.
I'm pretty sure you're good.
We, of course, actually, let's be somber for a moment. I have a confession to make. Proud. You've been similarly guilty of this. So I think we just have to come out and say it. Honestly, like, we pretend that we're a different podcast every week, and sometimes we say we're a Dota podcast.
That's true.
Really, in our hearts, this has been a Street Sharks podcast all along. I hate to lie.
Yeah, we've been building up to it, I think.
It's,
doesn't really come as a surprise to most people, I think, at this point.
We've jokingly said that it's a Street Sharks podcast before, but it was not a joke. We've been a Street Sharks podcast all along.
Yeah,
that
it was more of like
masquerade as other things. We're
kind of like testing the water or the asphalt, as it's better to say.
Yeah, a combination of the two, I'm sure.
Pavement, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it.
Okay.
And I feel like in honor of us being a Street Sharks podcast and finally being out and proud,
about how jawsome it is.
Yeah, exactly how jawsome it is. We're just big Ripper fans. And on that note, let's talk about Dota instead. And this will probably be our last Dota show. And then next week we'll resume just, standard Street Sharks theory crafting.
We got to give it a good send-off.
Exactly. So on that note, let's talk about Dota. Today is a special episode of Theorycraft Thursday.
Right.
And, well, it's special and we'll explain
what's
why
our
later.
segment? Did we figure it out?
Okay.
Do we have one? Or
I know our segment. All right. So first, before we do any of this nonsense,
I don't know what it is.
We are, you know what it is. We talked about this. What we're going to do first is talk about our weeks in Dota. Proud, okay. Monsieur Proud. Mr. Proud Esquire.
Yeah.
How has your week in Dota been in this last week of June something or other?
It's been good. After losing that Lone Druid game, I managed to lose 2 other Lone Druid games, which was like a big blow. I was like, what the this hero can lose? What the fuck? And then I started winning on him again. So I was like, oh, Jesus, that was close. And now everything's fine again. Lone Druid's still good. But I've been like not wanting to, like, I kind of got the Sven feeling where I'm like, all right, this hero's good. I'm going to play it every game. So I've been playing, I've been going back to like a little bit of Juggernaut, a little bit of Luna, get the classics going a little bit. Just like heroes that I can kind of not worry too much about, and just like, I'm just going to play some Dota. There's nothing crazy going on here. It's a Juggernaut. He does Juggernaut things. It's a Luna. She does Luna things. And I've just been having fun, just playing some regular ass Dota. I've been playing a little bit of Queen of Pain and Ember Spirit, and my Ember has been feeling really good lately. I don't play a ton of him, but he's one of those heroes that's, we both agree Ember is just like fucking fun as shit. Like, it's just a fun hero. Yeah. So it's like, all right, like, why don't I try to actually just get good at this if I just objectively think he's super fun? And Queen of Pain is kind of back in the meta. I think newbie picks her a shit ton and does really well. So there's obviously still a lot of potential in this hero. And yeah, she's good. She almost never has like a really, really hard lane. So she's like a pretty safe pick in general. There's some stuff she's not great against, but her itemization is pretty open. So I've just been having like a lot of fun with those 2 heroes. So, I've got good safe laners that I can play. I've got good mids I want to play. I've been playing a good amount of support, Jakiro mostly, and then a little bit of Bounty Hunter because everyone's picking Riki still.
Yep. That has not gone away. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's not anywhere. Like, you can play a 4 that's also traditionally like a carry. Maybe not traditionally anymore, but there are definitely people who still think of Riki as, like a core. Like, yeah, he at least still transitions into like a melee core kind of deal. So if you're allowed to do that in a pub, people are going to do it. That's been most of what I've been playing. I haven't offlaned in like a pretty long time, honestly. I'm not super attached to any of these offlaners right now, right? Like, I don't really want to play. Bristol's not really an offlaner, is more of a safe laner. But in pubs, he's an offlaner decently, and I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to play, like, I don't know. I just don't want to play Clockwork. Like, I love Clockwork, but it's just not for me at this exact moment in time,
Yeah.
It's how it's been.
I don't play offlane either. Like, I can, and I will if I have to, but it's by far my least favorite position.
Yeah.
And I was
playing a ton of it. I just haven't
objectively
been doing it. Yeah, I think it might be my second best, honestly, but it's just like super dependent on the heroes. Like when I was playing Centaur and Abaddon, I was doing really well because I love those 2 heroes, and I was just like winning every fucking game. But now I'm like, like these heroes are. They're still good. They're just not, where they were.
Yeah,
I just want to play Abaddon, dog. Like, I just want to play Abaddon, get a Midas, get Radiance, call it a day.
Yeah, I feel like since I play offlane the least, I feel like offlane is the role that I kind of railroad my hero pick through the most, where other roles it's like, okay, I can reactionary pick, like, all right, they picked, X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna pick Invoker now, or I'm gonna pick Spirit Breaker, or I'm gonna pick CM, whatever.
Yeah.
But with offlane it's like, okay, I don't really care what they picked, I'm gonna play Beastmaster because it's
Magnus,
probably fine.
Those are your two offlaners.
Yeah. I don't even honestly play that much Beastmaster, but he's been what I've been trying to play recently.
Yeah, I know you mention him all the time, but I only have ever seen you play Magnus offlane, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, but you also play a lot of heroes that synergize well with Magnus. That's part of the reason. Magnus is flashy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also
I don't want to play Darkseer. Like, who the fuck likes playing Darkseer? The only people who like playing Darkseer are the ones who's like, oh, Darkseer is easy. I'll play him because he's easy. Like, beyond that, you don't like playing Darkseer. You just have to.
Yeah. Like, even Tidehunter is more fun than Darkseer, but
yeah, you might even be right about that.
Some loyal Darkseer players. I mean, Tide Smash, Smashbringer. What is that thing?
Tidebringer.
Anchor Smash.
Anchor Smash
is fun.
What is Tidebringer? That's Kunkka.
Kunkka, yeah. God bless the new Kunkka Immortal, by the way.
Right.
Everybody needs to do that quest.
That hero's not a mid, believe it or not.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Everyone in my pubs, by the way, Kunkka is not a fucking mid.
Yeah, it's one of those things. God, let's see. It's like a top-down infection of like Attacker and a few other people are really good at Kunkka core. So they make it look cool, and like then there's some big Reddit thread like it once a month that's like, oh man, Attacker did this sick thing. It's like, yeah.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just that there was a time. Also. I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying that like there was a time when Kunkka was straight up like you could definitely play a mid and it was good, right? Like you lived through that time and you did it. And people now are going to play this hero because there's this like immortal quest line or whatever. And if there's any way they can trick their minds into believing that it's okay for them to pick the hero that they want to play as a core, they are going to do it. Like, if there was a Venge set of quests right now, we would have Safely and Venge every game. Not because it's, like, the way to go, or because more people play Venge this way than another, but just, like, they have an excuse to be able to core something, so they will.
Yeah. Even when Kunkka core was, like, acceptable, it was...
I mean, he was still better as a 4.
Yeah, he was still better as a 4, but there was a time when he was weaker as a 4 and better as a core, but the problem was it was situational against, like... things like Meepo or Chaos Knight or PL, etc. Yeah. And also it's a very high like skill floor and skill cap hero. Like it's deceptively simple looking. I forget what else I was summarizing as being deceptively simple looking, but Kunkka is just like, it looks simple, right? You're like, oh boy, he has 2 Daedalus, and then he walks up and he crits.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you have to get to that point in the game. Like you need foundational items and you need to kill your lane at like level 6 and all this nonsense. So
and rushing Shadowblade does not get you there, believe it or not.
Yeah, my ultimate pet peeve in Dota is probably Shadowblade Kunkka. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's probably the thing I hate most in Dota that I see the most regularly. Remember
Shadowblade Gyrocopter, where you would activate flat cannon and then right click, so like all of your flat cannon shots got additional like 150 damage, and that's like your entire idea behind like 3,000 gold. To fucking add 150 damage for one attack. What a fucking time to be alive.
Yep. And Kunkka's like, all right, I have huge mana problems. What should I do? Oh, I should buy a Shadowblade. That's gonna help.
Yeah, and I have X, so everything that I set up has to happen first. Like, here I go. I'm gonna Shadowblade up and X you. This is gonna be sweet. No, what are you doing?
I still need to play more Kunkka. My week in Dota has been mostly just playing what I always play. I've been sticking with the OD. That's not deceptively. I keep using that word.
It's very deceptive.
I was picking OD into Bristleback because I was like, all right, he's a meat shield, so I'm going to take all his int, and I deal pure damage. And
pure damage in your brain deals with people who don't take a lot of damage.
Exactly. It's one of those things where in my brain I was like, this makes sense. And then in actuality, it was like, wow, this was stupid, and I'm dead now.
Yeah. Turns out Bristleback has the one defense that doesn't give a shit what kind of damage you're dealing.
Yeah. And so I just had a bunch of lackluster OD
and evasion
games.
Too. Yeah, that sucks. OD sucks.
Yeah, the
against
evasion
Bristle.
was also the big thing.
Yeah,
you don't even. It's not like there's some things that still do their effect if the attack is evaded. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones it is.
I have no idea.
I feel like there's some exception to that rule where like some things still
does. Like or not Spirit Breaker, like Huskar's Burning Spear applies its dot even if it's dodge. I know that's not true, but there's something like that on some
like
skill.
That. God, no, anyway, that's going to bother me. But yeah, but OD's orbs definitely do not do that, unfortunately. Yeah. It might be Desolator or like Blightstone. If you miss the attack, it still applies that.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm definitely wrong, and there's some example of this. I'm looking at the hero list, and I can't remember what it is.
Okay, whatever.
Anyway, yeah, okay, so, yeah, more of the same for me. Nothing too exciting. I don't know. I'm still kind of observing Dota more. Like, I've been watching streamers. Like, I normally never watch streamers, but I've been watching Wagga and a few other streamers over the course of the week, and what's called Epicenter is going on. Yeah. So I've been kind of just observing metagame-wise, and basically my big takeaway is, boy, Bristleback is annoying, and I hate him.
Yeah, Bristle's still really good, and like the Silver Edge, because I mean I guess we'll kind of talk about this a bit because we do encounter a Bristleback, yeah, but I do kind of want to, and this is something when we were casting the first in-house game that almost happened. They had like a Bristleback, and the other team picked a Slark, and it's like, yeah, Slark builds Silver Edge, and Silver Edge counters Bristleback, but like you got to get there, and that's a fucking expensive item these days. Yep. And then and before then, like Slark without Silver Edge against Bristleback, like that's not good. He does a ton of physical damage that builds up over time against a hero that has low armor and wants to stay in the middle of fights as long as possible. Like it's not ideal situation. That's bad. It's like I like Shadow Fiend Silver Edge against Bristle, but not a lot else is good.
Yeah. So actually, you hinted at it, but and why I said this was a special episode of Theorycraft Thursday earlier. What we did today was we played our game before recording, and the point of this is the point of this is that our segment today is going to talk about reactionary picking and how we go about. Like mentally, how you plan out, all right, I'm going to pick this hero versus this hero. And so we took notes on exactly the pick order and the bans and all that of our game. And then we're just going to talk about, why we did what we did. And then, of course, we'll talk about the actual game at the end of this. But for now, our segment, which we'll cover, is just going to be us talking about, the 10 heroes in the game and why our team picked what it did. Specifically us two, obviously, because we cannot rationalize entirely what our teammates did, but we're going to try to, at the very least. Do I just hop right into it, Proud?
Yeah,
unless
sure.
you have anything else to say. All right.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Yeah,
so
sure.
We talk. I guess before we go into the specifics, we talk about reactionary picking a lot, right? Like that's the fundamental of a lot of our combos. It's like, okay, well, okay, let's see, what heroes have we never played on this show?
It's a fair question.
All right, so we never played. Oh, Chen, that's an exception.
Yeah, my list of what we've played is like dead, so it's basically just your list.
Mine's perfectly up to date. So we've never played Pugna on this show for a variety of reasons. But one of the big ones is that Pugna is a great reactionary hero, but not a great we just pick him hero, right? Because on the show, right, we don't want to pick a combo that's highly situational. Because what if we pick
then
Pugna,
our current show is like we picked Pugna, and then they didn't pick heroes that Pugna counters.
So there we lost.
Go. Yeah, we fucking just lost.
So reactionary picking wise, this kind of thing is very valuable, and it's something, like I said, we talk about all the time, but we rarely do, obviously, because the concept of the show does not suit itself towards reactionary picking. So that's why we thought this would be fun. Let's see.
Right.
Let's just get into the specifics. All right, so this was a game. It was 3 solo members on each team, and then a party of 2 on each team. The other team had one of their players was also like mid 5Ks, if I recall correctly. So it was not like one of these weird uneven games.
Yeah. Their Lycan was like 5,400. So they weren't too disadvantaged.
Yeah. Okay. So the first pick was on the enemy team. Actually, this is what we have to talk about before the specifics. Proud. We had second pick, and in pubs and in all picks specifically, second pick is an advantage. Just as a sweeping statement, I would never actually. I mean, an argument could be made that first pick is better in some patches, but not in the current one.
Yeah.
Second pick means that you are picking your 5th hero last, which especially in higher MMRs that have higher variation. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. But in any degree, you get to counterpick your last pick if you have secondary pick. So we were fortunate in that we had second pick. I don't even like. Do we really need to expound on this opinion? But this is just something to think about.
There's like two factors to it, right? There's first pick is good if there is one singular broken hero, or that's like 8 times more broken than everything else. So like in the like TI5, the Leshrac patch, where Lesh was just like by far and away the best hero, just straight out. Having first pick wouldn't be so bad because he's just like, oh, okay, I'll pick Leshrac, but after like if that isn't really like the main concern, normally it's you have your best player is going to go mid and their best MMR person is going to go mid or whatever. That's oftentimes how it shakes out. And so if you have these two dudes who are like wildly better than everyone else, or up by 500, like the way their matchup goes is gonna have a huge impact of the game, or on the game rather. So if they have to pick before you and they're like, shit, I got a TA. And then, hey, turns out the other mid is like, a really good Venomancer player or something. And then they pick Veno or something, or shit. It looks like a Jakiro mid game actually will be able to end in 25 minutes. And then you have like Jakiro mid against, TA. And it's like, oh shit, GG. Or, I mean, if the other team is like, oh man, I just have to pick Shadow Fiend and you don't have Jakiro or whatever on your team. And then they pick TA and you're like, oh shit. Well, we lose because we have Shadow Fiend versus TA, and there was no way to plan around that because, various reasons and shit. So, yeah, I mean, second pick just sucks. I think the mid matchup is a really huge deal in pubs when you're not super organized. And that, that's kind of how it shakes out. It's just how it is.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind, just as a general statement, that is honestly, I feel like it's one of those things regarding drafting in pubs that you realize in the moment, like, oh man, they have last pick. But when you think about it conceptually about solo queue, it's not something that comes to mind, at least for me. So anyway, yes, we had second pick. So the enemy team, their first pick was Ancient Apparition.
Right. And in terms of counter picking, right, like there's a lot that like an AA pick isn't just like a general hero, right? Like there's a lot to read into that you can react to as soon as you see that.
Yeah, he's a specialist hero. I mean, he's, for example, a hero that we would likely not want to play on Theorycraft Thursday because he's more of a counter pick. Like, oh man, they have a Huskar. Oh man, they have whatever healing strat.
Alchemist or something, where we have some way to make sure that people get inside of inside the cold feet and some shit like that.
Yeah. So thinking about reactionary picking, we picked third and fourth on our team, so sixth and eighth respectively. But if we were picking first or second, the AA, the reaction to AA, I should say, as a core is basically, all right, I don't want to pick a healing-based or a super reliant on healing hero.
Yeah, or an armlet hero, more specifically, or something like that.
Yeah, armlet hero especially, too. But from a support player point of view, there's not a lot of supports that I'm concerned with playing against an AA. Yeah. Just as a general statement, like
you're just
Oracle,
like, I won't pick Dazzle. Oracle. Yeah, no Dazzle or Oracle or something like that. I mean, maybe Dazzle, but not so much.
Yeah, and if you're talking about it from a 4 roaming perspective, A is actually really easy to kill in general. So it doesn't really change the equation drastically on what 4s you can pick, but it changes your play style a little bit in that, if you're playing Night Stalker, he's like fodder, right? You could just eat a Night Stalker. I mean, rather, you could just eat an AA as Night Stalker constantly. Yeah.
The other thing that I would focus on there is that, like, AA is a 5. It's not like you're going to pick AA and Crystal Maiden, ideally. And AA doesn't provide hard lockdown, right? Like he's not a lion by any stretch, not even like a Venge, not even a disruptor, like the only thing resembling lockdown that he applies to you can be dispelled by activating your phase boots or a manta style or some shit like that. So that's kind of what was in my head. It's like, all right, I can play mobility, but I should try to get someone who's not like, I probably don't want a Sven who blinks in, stuns, and then I'm sitting in like the AA little area thing that he puts down in Cold Feet did. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna get stunned because I'm a fucking Sven who already used Blink. Like I was trying to avoid that kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, so in some ways it restricts you, but also opens up other venues of picking.
Yeah, it lets you know what kind of things can still ball out of control and what specifically is not, like it has not been optimized by them picking that hero.
All right, so our reaction to that was the first pick, Jakiro. Now,
always the play.
It's basically like the opposite of the AA pick, right? The AA is a situational hero that happened to be picked first. So, we marked a few heroes off our list saying, all right, we're not going to pick these heroes. We are going to be able to pick these heroes, yada, yada, yada. Whereas Jakiro is a lot more consistent in that he offers a whole lot of things and does a whole lot of things, at a mediocre, or not mediocre, he does things well, I should say. But he's a jack of all trades, right? So he does not block off a bunch of heroes suddenly, other than like TA.
He's got like a straight up stun, like it's just a fucking stun, and a long range stun at that. He's got a dot that's also a slow. He has another dot that's like an attack speed slow and also is a pushing spell. And then like a pseudo team fight ulti that can be synergized with. That's also like really good D push and just like area control and shit. It's like he's got a little bit of everything. He's great.
Yeah, so Jakiro is basically like Jakiro in general is just an ideal first pick for a team. Like he's a 5. He offers a ton of things. He does not telegraph what you're doing. He can accommodate a lot of different strategies, like Prad was saying, where he's good at team fighting. He's good at pushing. He's good at a lot of things. He's tanky, so he can not get he's not like an AA that's just going to get picked up by a Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, so I was saying like you can't do like AA Crystal Maiden because then a Slark is going to just destroy everything about you. But if you can kind of do AA Crystal, or rather you can kind of do Jakiro Crystal Maiden because Jakiro's like big as shit. So if they're sitting next to each other, like if they go in the CM, Jakiro, or rather if they go in the Jakiro, CM can bail him out before Jakiro dies, which is like the other way around, maybe not so much, but at least one of the supports, can live long enough for a reaction to happen.
Yeah, and in terms of Jakiro affecting what the other team would pick, I would say it doesn't drastically affect anything other than TA, obviously. If the first team, if the enemy team first picks a Jakiro, don't pick TA next. Rocket science right there. But other than that, it does not change their equation drastically. Although it is important to note that AoE control is a problem for some heroes, right? Like a PL is going to have trouble if you have AoE control down a lane. Or any of these super mobile heroes, like the Lycan that we already talked about, or we didn't talk about, but we mentioned got picked. Lycan does not like playing into an AoE stun because he wants to be running around. Similarly to why Lycan doesn't want to play into Clockwork. Right, it's because this AoE control.
He doesn't want like a huge area of the map to be like as soon as an ice path goes down, like Lycan, even if it doesn't stun Lycan wants to like run forward, hit you twice, and then walk back and then like run around you and keep you all confused and darting in and out like an actual wolf. Like ice path and macro pyre do not mix with me like fucking running everywhere and making like circles around the fight. Like that's not what you want against a Jakiro.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so on that note, let's get into our next thing. So the next pick was a randomed Lycan. It was a Shadow Shaman that was then re-randomed into the Lycan. So good on the 5400 player to understand that this game's probably not going to go great if I play a support. Yeah, and no Shadow Shaman mid nonsense. Yeah. All right. So he randoms Lycan. We don't really need to talk about randoming on ranked. Like, just don't do it. This guy's in party ranked, which is why he's doing a suboptimal thing. But
yeah, if you random in ranked, I think this is like a Dot-P approved. Like, you're never going to be a 5-star person if you random in ranked. That's just kind of known.
Yes. You're never going to be a 5-star podcast if you random in ranked.
That's I want to point out to the credit when someone's like, oh, if you can play every hero, you can... Like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. This dude's like 5400. Lycan is a fucking rote hero. If you're 5400 and you don't know what to build on a hero that's like relatively popular, at least at like a cursory level, then you probably shouldn't be playing that hero. And like this dude, like he's 5400, he random Lycan and he builds the stupidest items I've ever seen in my life. He has fucking Vlad's mom and Echo Saber. Like, what? Why? How do you end up with those fucking items together? Like, how the fuck? And that's why you don't random in ranked, because you end up like this idiot.
It's kind of like it's
Mom
kind
and
of
Echo together is not that bad. Echo and Vlad's together, not that bad. And then, but like Vlad's and Mom together, like what the fuck? And then you're like, you know what? I need to augment the fact that I got 2 items that do similar things for me. I just need a third intermediary item before I get anything that does anything. So you have fucking like 6,000 gold of items, but you don't do anything yet. You just fuck Sam. I hate everyone who randoms in rank. They're dumb as I hate it.
Yeah, it's a topic we've gone over a lot
what
of times.
What did he skill?
But it's still
he's skilled, right? No, he didn't. He has 3 points in Howl. What the? Why do you have 3 points in Howl? What the fuck?
Yeah. Also,
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't even want. Oh, yeah, it's just bad. All right, so like
this is bad.
Regardless of how much you think you can play every hero in the game or how proportionally good, like he has 5400, like he's statistically better than both of us. But
pretty good at Dota too.
This is still like don't random in ranked for the love of God. Even in party ranked, like I get it that like it's party ranked, so who cares? but at the same time, like, try to win games.
Yeah, like, do you think this dude had fun going 3-9 in a 4K game as a 5400 player? I wouldn't. That's why I didn't. That's why I was like, yo, can I go safe lane, please? And then someone was like, yeah, dog. And then I fucking tore it up.
All right. So that's been our weekly don't run in ranked, even if you're 5400 rule, because despite what you think, you cannot play every hero at an MMR appropriate level for whatever your bracket is.
Right.
All right. So he picks Lycan. Let's talk about what Lycan changes in the dynamic, especially Lycan with AA specifically.
Sure. Yeah, so Lycan also is a hero with literally 0 lockdown. He does like move around a ton, and the wolves actually do help with AA a lot. Like if someone gets AA blasted and wolves are in the area, you can actually pick someone down pretty easily. But the main thing, it's not so much like going against Lycan that I was kind of thinking about. Well, actually, no, that's really cool because the AA blast is kind of going to like catch you out of nowhere, and then Lycan, like one of the issues,
and slap you around.
Yeah, because like he kind of has difficulties getting like actually securing a kill by himself, like most heroes really do. But if he's, like all ultied up and he's got Echo Saber and, like a little Deso on him or some shit like that, it's not hard to drop someone down to like 11% or something and then they just pop. Like that's. Yeah, and then like oh, man, it's so cool that Lycan literally plays like a fucking wolf. Like everyone gets all like hurt and shit, and then he comes in and fucking cleans everything up, and like he just like stalks you until you're low, and then runs in and just ravages your entire fucking camp. Like that's a cool synergy. But my main thought there was like, okay, we need stuns, not slows, because Lycan doesn't get slowed; he just gets fucking stunned. So something to like stop him from being able to walk around in circles. And maybe some cleave just so the wolves aren't like a big deal. But mostly it's just like we need to not be in a place where we're all like super low and we just get chain picked down by a Lycan. That was kind of my main thought.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's our way of thinking of picking against the Lycan. If you are on this dire team and your team is AA Lycan at the start for first 2 picks, how do you adapt to that, right? Or how do you start formulating your picks around that, right? Like your team already provides a not great lockdown from AA that requires, I wouldn't even call it lockdown, it's like incidental lockdown that requires another person or a very dumb enemy.
It at least requires some fucking circumstances. Like you don't need like the apex of the opposite of a do nothing hero, but you need someone who's gonna like. You need a spell that does something. You can't just have 3 Lycans on your team and an AA cold feet.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you see the Lycan on your team and you have an AA, right, you're already saying, all right, we need consistent lockdown, right? So you're going to be going for, whether it's in any position, whether it's an offlaner or a 4 or a 3, you're saying, all right, I need to have a stun or a hex or a team fight ult. Like we have AA is a team fight damage, I suppose, but Lycan is not a team fighter. He is I'm going to pick off guys in the periphery and slap people around and run away.
Yeah, he's like a Slark that isn't in stealth and is also Sven.
Yeah, and also has 4,000 health.
Right. I still can't believe you're so
Theorycrafting Thursday.
Yeah, it turns out a hero with no abilities besides having a high right click and a high health pool has a high health pool and a lot of right click. Big surprise.
I never thought of him as a high health pool hero. I always thought of him as a fast hero with a lot of armor.
When his ulti is up, but like literally name me what Lycan does. Like what are his skills?
He's fast. He hit.
Yeah. Guess what? You need to have a body for that to be your entire hero.
But no, I mean, if you have a lot of speed, then
you don't though. You have speed for 18 seconds out of like 2 minutes. That is not a long time,
18
dog.
seconds is like an entire fight.
Yeah, but it's like having a haste rune does not make a hero.
Well, but it's a haste rune on demand.
Yeah, like a 3 second or a 1.5 second cast time on it. Look, I love Lycan. You're not gonna. Okay, look, if your hero has to run into the middle of people and they are not tanky, you lose the game. You just fucking lose.
But, like, he's so fast.
Yeah, but if you click on him, he's not.
Then you pop your Mask of Madness.
Yeah,
Go Saber. Then you slow everybody down.
Okay. And the Vlads, because you got all of them. You got so much lifesteal. It's impossible to bring that health pool down. Anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. All right, so we're at
Lycan's like not even good.
Yeah, okay, so they have Lycan AA. We now pick our offlaner. So commonly, both in captain's mode and in solo queue, in all pick, you see offlaners picked within the first 3 picks, right? That's a pretty, safe bet.
Yeah, the only time you wouldn't want to do that is like like if there's a really high priority like mid or something, you're just like, I want to play Shadow Fiend mid. First pick Shadow Fiend mid, so someone doesn't steal my mid. Or the safe lane is like, I'm gonna play Sven. Oh, I'm Sven. Like, you know, if you're me or something. But like if you don't, if it doesn't look like you're gonna have an idea what their like safe lane is gonna look like, then it's probably good to maybe hold off your offlaner a bit. But they've already picked their 2 supports. You can kind of guess, you know, like, oh, I might go against that plus a Jugg or a Lifestealer or something. Yeah. I'm pretty comfy to pick my offlane here.
All right, so our player picks Centaur in the offlane, right? As opposed to Centaur anywhere else.
That's the generic enough hero that it's like, no matter what, like you may pick Lifestealer here, you may pick Juggernaut, you may pick Sven, like no matter what, I'm still a Centaur. Like after the laning phase, things are going to kind of even out either way. So I think it's like Centaur's a really good hero to just fucking pick. Like he's got a good ulti, he has a stun, he has damage, he has the ability to farm. He goes pretty self-reliant items. Like you just get your tranquils and then, you know, try to get to a blink. And that's about it. Like super simple, not easily countered. Reminds me a lot of the Jakiro. Like not bad in any way. It's just a hero.
Yeah, so specific to this game, right? Centaur Jakiro is nice as just the first 2 heroes, but just as a duo in general. They didn't lane together, but as a pair of heroes, I should say.
Sure.
They are nice in that they're both tanky. They both are a threat to towers. They both require commitment to kill. And they're both very generally good, I would say. They're not specialist heroes, right? So the Dire team at this point has 2 specialist heroes that require specific things and do specific things, whereas Centaur Jakiro is very generalist, right? It's just, okay, both these heroes are good at a lot of things, right? They have damage potential, they have pick-off potential, they have whatever, they have, you know, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I really like that you like honed in that they're both kind of tanky, because, okay, so we see their 2, we only see the like in the AA now. Okay, so that I would kind of go into later, but just for one, if you're against an AA, you want that 11% threshold to be as far off as possible. You don't want it like, 2 nukes, 11%, I'm dead. So Centaur is definitely good for that. He also builds magic resist, or he has the option to. So like, even if, you know, he gets hits by the AA blast, it might just like not do any damage, and he has pipe, so, or even just hood, and as soon as he activates that, the dot doesn't tick at all. So he's just
and he has a talent for it.
Yeah, so he could just be like immune to that whole fucking concept if the fight goes long enough. But yeah, no, I like it. You can like, we have 2 picks that have the ability to outlast the AA, and also the ability that like we can siege towers with like Centaur tanking it and Jakiro throwing liquid fire, and even if we get like 5-man AA blasted, he can just drop his ulti and then we all just fucking run away max speed even after we get like a fucking 5-man AA blast dropped on us. Like it's super cool. I like that a lot.
Exactly, and you can, you know, speed away from the cold feet too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, even just that. At a like a worthless skill versus an ulti, it's still like is pretty fucking value.
Yeah, and Centaur is good at bursting the AA. He's good at AoE controlling the Lycan. We saw it throughout this
stomp
game.
on his like wolves and shit. And also, it's kind of hard to click on Lycan in general. But if he's running at you, you press Q. He has turn speed, so it's still pretty good.
And you can speed your teammates away from a Lycan chasing them. Like, there's just a lot of synergy.
Yeah. It's not going to get faster than Lycan's ult, because like Lycan's ulti is 650 and maximum speed is 550, but it's still like, infinite, fuck you. It's still enough that like, you know, when you're running away from someone and they have boots but you don't, it's still like they do an auto attack and then they got to run for 3 seconds and then they like it's enough to get some distance.
Yeah. It'll help. All right. So does the Centaur pick now change anything if you are either team, right?
It helps me know what kind of... I've already got the Lycan, right? So Centaur's definitely good, because AA and Lycan both really don't snare the Centaur at all or have any damage capabilities on the Centaur. Normally, like, if you pick your offlaner, I'm like, okay, what carry can 1v1 that so I could have the opportunity to, like, roam or just pull a shit ton. But since they already did that, I guess that's going to inform me what the other support I want to play is, because I want to make sure that your offlaner feels unsafe, especially if it's not like if you have an Axe, I don't mind too much about making it just like, I can kill the Axe potentially with my 2 heroes. So the Axe may jungle, he may not. Either way, it's fine. They're both good ways for Axe to go. But Centaur definitely wants to lane more than jungle. So after that, I would be like, all right, I'm gonna get whatever support I can that can kind of force this Centaur to not lane, which is what he wants to do. I'm gonna force him at least to jungle, or have the perception that he has to jungle. I guess that's kind of the only way I'd put it. I wouldn't really look for anything in my mid. It wouldn't really change that much how I'm thinking about running my off lane unless I'm like, oh, maybe we can go aggro or something. But yeah, like the off lane pick of a centaur really doesn't change any of your math on what you do besides what safe laner you're going to pick. So they pick the Lycan, we pick our off laner. That's great. We're winning, I think, draft wise at that point.
Perfect. All right. So they respond with a Crystal Maiden pick. Crystal Maiden is definitely one of the standout heroes of the last patch or two. Really
she's
consistently strong. Does a lot of different things. In general, I would say CM is one of those heroes where rarely do I see a CM pick and I'm like, well, and this was an exception, but rarely do I see a CM pick and I'm like, boy, this was a bad pick. Because CM just does so much for a team. CM, I would say, it's weird to third pick a CM. That's just as an observation. CM is like a first two kind of hero. Yeah.
Can you think of like any particular weaknesses of the hero? Because I mean, I definitely like I kind of hate first pick CM. Like I think it's good or whatever, but as a carry player, I love going against it. Can you guess why?
Because you build mantas.
Because I built, dude, I can do anything. I can go out here like BKBs, so. Nothing CM does stops you from activating a BKB, a manta, a lotus orb, or literally any skill in the game. So like I can pick Slark, I can fucking Dark Pact out of everything. I can fucking Dark Pact Pounce out of her ulti. I can be Tusk. I can snowball while I'm rooted or whatever. I pick Lifestealer. I can Q out of everything she does and stop taking damage from her ulti and just eat her. I can Jugg. I can get away from literally anything. I could go I can go PL and use W to get out of anything or manta out of stuff. Like there's so much you can do against the CM. But if I'm playing Sven and you pick CM, I'm like, shit, I don't want to use my BKB so a CM doesn't fuck me. Like that's not ideal. I don't want to do that. But as soon as you pick a hero that I can just pick Jugg against and I'm not worried about anything you do, I'm a happy camper.
Right. So the real weakness, I mean, so whenever I see a CM on the enemy team, I think, all right, I want to either have a long range AoE or long range disable that I can cast on her,
right?
Or like a Jakiro Ice Path,
for instance.
Or I want to pick a hero in any position for that matter that can burst her down immediately, right? Because she's gonna have like 800 health at like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So again, talking about if you're playing fours. If you have, any four can just run her down, right? Basically, unless she's obviously super fed. You want to have heroes that can consistently run at her, right? Like if you're trying to kill somebody and then it's like, oh, she frostbit me now and my rotation has failed, that sucks. And similarly, I would say a lot of the problems AA has are a lot of the problems that CM has, in that both of them are squishy and their disables are purgeable. So if I'm picking, next pick, let's say I'm picking 4 next. If I was picking my 4 next, I'd say, all right, I can pick, I could pick Night Stalker, I could pick Spirit Breaker, I could pick any of these heroes that provide consistent pressure.
25 minutes, Crystal Maiden had 1,100 health, actually. She had a drum and a wand.
Okay.
In case you were wondering.
Oh, that's, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so the CM as a not first pick, once CM AA being revealed as a duo, I should say, right? They've revealed their trap card. And
it was a shitty trap card. It was just, I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, but it was like not even a trap. It was like, here's everything that I want to do and here's how you counter it.
Yeah, and so this is a really bad support duo, and the way that you benefit off of picking of seeing a bad support duo picked by the enemy team is you now have the ability to pick cores that can completely exploit the issues that they have and avoid the specialties they have.
That's actually like its own little thing. I guess this is like a sentiment that we haven't really expressed more than maybe like once or twice, but in general, like the way I like to think about drafts is your cores do your core things and your supports counter their cores, right? Like in general, you want your supports to counter cores and your cores to be uncountered. And also, I mean, you want them to have decent matchup against their cores. Like, oh, they pick Storm Spirit or Medusa. I'm going to pick Anti-Mage. Like, yeah, that's nice. But in general, in terms of like a standard draft where it's not something like super clear like that, you want to keep your supports open that kind of pigeonhole them into picking a certain kind of like carry that you do well against. And you're able to do that because your supports like counter everything else really hard. But yeah, if you end up with like AA Crystal Maiden, who, both of their disables are countered by fucking the soft dispel on a Manta style, you're not in good business. You haven't really crossed anything off of my list in terms of what I can play.
Yeah. So they, in their support duo, they have not prevented a ton of stuff, and they have not countered our supports, whereas we left our 4 to our last pick, which allowed our 4 to be a reactive pick that counters their cores directly. So that's something to be considering if you either see the enemy team reveal both of their supports, or if you are picking a support of your own, you don't want to be revealing something like this that's super committal, right? Like having 2 5s that are squishy, that's weak.
Yeah, then you're super weak to any team that doesn't die to burst damage or that can last a long time or has AoE damage. That's the other thing that you said, things that you look for against like CMs and stuff. It's like, the disable, burst, and all that shit. Also, just like if your team has fucking like any amount of I think of it as kind of like radiation damage. Like Jakiro has a shit ton of radiation damage. Like, yeah, he does a lot of damage to one thing, but like if you're just an Invoker too, like if you just are near an Invoker team fighting, you're gonna get like an early stage of cancer. Just no matter where you are in the fight, something is going to happen to you that like your family is not going to be happy about. But against Bane, like Bane isn't Bane. You're not going to be worried about being like a little bit away from your carry when Bane is on the field, right? Because you're not going to take any extra damage. You're just going to, like, Bane just is all single turret. But you have like that weird, Invoker did like a meatball and it kept rolling to me all the way in the back, even though he wasn't aiming for me. Like, that's the kind of shit that you want when they have a bunch of squishy ass heroes. And like your Invoker pick definitely did that. Oh no, I spoiled. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, ruined. Sorry. And also the other thing is that both these heroes suck at dealing with tanky heroes, right? CM is really good at killing some squishy core like Alina, but she sucks at killing a core that has, escape potential and all this kind of stuff like a Juggernaut or an Invoker or a Slardar or whatever. So, on that note, your next pick, as a third pick, was the Juggernaut. Luckily, you got carried. We had a very polite Slardar that was like, yeah, go for it, bro.
Yeah, and he even rolled me. He clicked it before me, and I used to be very anti, like, the idea of, fucking... Oh god, what is it? Someone just started asking me how to play Lone Druid. How can I not respond to someone? Fuck, I'm just gonna, like, wait. Sec. I am recording, sir. Okay, sorry everyone. Shit, what was I saying, man? Fuck.
You were talking about...
Oh god, it's straight on the tip of my nose. Fuck. What was it, dude?
You picked Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And you were worried about a concept.
Oh, fuck, a concept. Oh, God, it was good, too. Shit, dude.
I zoned out for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, what were you saying before that?
We were talking about AoE control against the CM and having a lot of ways to deal with the CM.
Fuck, dude. I'm just going to talk about Juggernaut. Yeah, no, I'll just talk about Juggernaut. Shit.
That's okay.
All right.
We're not talking about Jugg. We're sure someone will message us on Discord and tell us why, and then you can extrapolate or you can expound upon.
Man, I'm pissed now. This was like I was really excited. So Juggernaut was obviously super good here. I looked at their 2 supports and I said neither of these people can do anything against Juggernaut. Like any situation I find myself in, cold-feeted Q, Ancient Apparition puts that icy touch, chilling touch or whatever on everyone so they can right click harder, doesn't deal damage through my Q. CM Novas me, I Manta off, and then if she freezes me, I Q. CM ultis, I Q. Or anything happens, I ulti them. Like if CM gets close enough to frostbite me, I'll fucking Manta out and ulti her or something, or just like any of this shit happens, like all of my skills destroy everything. Yeah. And then also I have, and it's like to such a firm degree that even though Ancient Apparition does counter my healing ward, like quote unquote, I just don't give a shit. I have 2 abilities built into my hero that make their supports do literally nothing to me. Like the hero's just great. My other options are Lifestealer is also very good. He's another hero with a built-in kind of magic immunity effect. However, he doesn't go Manta. So if I'm not so much just looking for the BKB like I would be if I was against like Lion or OD, I'm honestly just looking for like to be able to dispel myself. So the one rage, not too interesting. I don't want to go Manta on Lifestealer. I'm kind of interested in Phantom Lancer, but also because Phantom Lancer isn't hurt by the Ancient Apparition as much as Jugg is with his healing ward. But CM ulti is a big problem. If you're like a one-time dispel kind of deal, like Slark, Dark Pact is not going to help you from CM ulti, right? But Juggernaut's Q totally is. So I just looked at like every single aspect of their heroes. I'm like, all right, it's probably Juggernaut. And then also looking at Lycan, I wanted the option to have a hero that does a little bit of AoE, in case, you know, like they just start mass pushing with the Lycan, and also a hero that that doesn't get kited super hard. It's kind of weird to think about a melee hero kiting you, but like I love the Lycan against Lifestealer matchup, because the way I play it is I just go into ulti, and then I look for his butt, and then I like sniff it and then punch him in his butt, and he tries to turn around, and I just walk away, and then Lifestealer's like, fuck it, I'll go kill this person, and then Lifestealer turns around, I fucking sniff his butt again, and just grab his bum, and Lifestealer's like, stop it, and then he just keeps turning around and trying to open wounds me, and he's just sad all the time. But versus a Jugg, like if Lycan tries to do that to me, I'll just ult him, and then he can run as fast as he wants. I'm still on him, and his wolves are invisible, and he can't figure out how to make them not invisible because he fucking randomed the hero, so he's not going to know how to do anything.
Yeah. That is a metagame. All right, they randomed X hero. We know they suck at it.
Yeah,
odds are rather.
It's pretty hard, honestly. Like what you have to do as Lycan is like you have to resummon your wolves and then like move them both away from you while you're running, and hope that, because you can move so fast between the bounces that'll normally work, but you have to like make a real fast triangle, and that's like how you counter Omnislass's Juggernaut. But if you don't know to do that, like if you're not experiencing the hero, then it sucks. Also, Lycan builds Basher, which is great against Lycan, and also CM. Yeah. So, and Lifestealer takes a little bit longer to get that. Also, Lifestealer also fucking sucks against AA because he's an armlet hero that has healing mechanics. So yeah, that's why I picked Juggernaut. Had the least number of counters available open. Also strong against most offlaners, and isn't something like a Slark or a PL where it has like some very specific counters still available.
Right. Okay. So now going from the Dire's perspective, since they have the next pick, if you are picking as Dire and you see, all right, they have Centaur, Juggernaut, Jakiro. We know, all right, they have three heroes that are relatively tanky, right? Juggernaut is effectively tanky, and he builds into some stats as well. Yeah,
and he has a health talent early on. I think he's tanky right now.
Yeah, I would definitely consider him in that category, maybe to a lesser degree than some heroes. But okay, so if you're picking from Dire team, you're reactionary to this, what would you ideally be doing as your fourth or fifth pick for this team?
Yeah, so if we have two squishy supports that don't provide any lockdown and a Lycan, I would kind of look at this at this point and say either we're going for split push, or kind of just make the game relatively disorganized or something like that, or go some kind of like sorry, I had to half burp. Or go something like a Dragonite or something that gives your team a ton of direction. Like I feel like as soon as you have these weird supports, you need to go very hard in one direction.
Yeah, you need either to make simple stuff.
Yeah, either like mass split push or a mass 5-man. I think those are kind of your only two options. Like the things that you have at your disposal, CM's giving all your lanes an aura, so maybe you can win all your lanes or something. Or everyone just is going to be a little stronger, and AA can like orbital strike any place on the map. So if everyone is kind of disorganized, if your supports are in the back kind of farming, and your cores are fairly independent and can split push, they can put out additional pressure that, you know, another team with a more general lineup maybe couldn't. That's kind of what I would think at this point. Either you 5-man it and just like win through organization, or you do some split pushy stuff where all your cores can act independently.
Yeah, and abuse the fact that, you know, we are a more standard-esque team, so if we get messed up and off kilter, it's pretty easy to abuse that and then move forward.
Yeah, we're a very standard, not directed team. So like if they're just better than us, like we don't split push that well, we don't, you know, do whatever that well, we're just kind of like we can do everything decently. But if they're hyper specialized, and if they get us to play their game, like if they go full split push and we have to also split push, then they still have a chance at winning.
Yeah, they have to set the tempo, basically.
Yeah, they definitely have
more defined.
Yeah, they definitely have to set their own style and go really hard into it, in my opinion, at this point.
That makes sense. All right, so their next pick is Arc Warden, and it's a mid-Arc Warden, obviously, though sometimes we see it safe lane, but it is a mid-Arc Warden in this game. And as a fourth pick, he definitely fits that whole like split push, you know, havoc wreaking mentality that you were mentioning. I'm not sure if that was the mentality going into the pick, but that definitely was the case. Obviously, I mean, you guys have probably figured it out contextually by now, but we did end up winning this game. So clearly their way of discombobulating us did not work. But yeah, so their fourth pick is Arc Warden mid. They have already, of course, picked their safe lane and their two supports, so they have to either pick off lane or mid right now. Our mid has not been revealed, but our safe lane has been revealed. So in general, I would say strategically, I would want to be picking an offlaner right now rather than a mid, so that you have the potential advantage of seeing the enemy mid come out, and at the very least, all right, I'm going to be going against a Jakiro and a Juggernaut, so I'd want to pick offlane. But obviously that didn't happen. They picked Arc Warden. This hero was a nuisance. Obviously, it didn't win them the game, but boy, was it annoying.
Yeah, it was their only hero that had a positive KDA, so I mean, hats off to that.
Yeah. Arc Warden's a bit atypical, and like we were saying, the atypical playstyle and hero type really fit their team this game in that they already had a weird team, so they kind of had to just go full on into it. What do you think about this, and especially it relative to our team?
I think that is really bad against the Juggernaut and not that great against the Centaur. Arc Warden, it depends how comfortable you are on the hero and how much you really have like a beat on exactly what he's about. But he has split push elements, but he's mostly just like, I almost want to say entirely a positioning / area control manipulator. He places those mines that are very obviously area control oriented. Yeah. He has a bubble that is an area that gives you evasion, which is obviously another area control ability. Yeah. He has his little his dot thing that makes you stand next to other people. Otherwise, it slows you and deals damage. That controls your enemy's positionings greatly. Like it's a lot of shit like that, but it's all off the premise of like slows and things that people react to. It's not like, oh, I place this down and then you can't react to it. This area is now controlled. Haha, your life fucking sucks now. It's like, I do these things, and if you don't counter them, your life sucks, but you do have the ability to counter them. So the Centaur ulti, great way to deal with those slows that he puts out. Juggernaut, again, I picked this hero because I thought it had the least amount of counters left, and Arc Warden definitely fits that. I can Manta off all his things. I can send my Manta illusions into the mines to pop them. I can heal through them with my healing ward. And I have the potential to be mobile enough between just pressing Q and walking through hell or getting a blink dagger or something that I can like get inside of Arc Warden's bubble. And also I'm a hero that has the ability to build MKB, so I don't mind too much that he is going to have those that he is going to have the evasion bubbles forever. So like his hero really sucks against Jugg. It's fine against Jakiro, especially in terms of stopping the liquid fires from actually hitting our towers. But it's not like great against Centaur, but it is good for, I think, the play style that they wanted to go for.
Yeah, so I mean, you basically wrapped it up perfectly as I was thinking, but it was a hero that fits their team, but not our team. If that that makes sense, right?
It's kind of like what can happen if you're like, oh, just play our own game, exactly. And then you end up with that kind of thing. And like, the dude played well. Yeah. The dude played well, and I think it was, like a fine pick or whatever, but it does show that, sometimes a pick that doesn't counter the enemy team, like even if it's played great, it, you still might not win you the game.
Yeah, so in response to the Arc Warden pick, I picked my middle hero fourth, and I picked Invoker. So Invoker, obviously, as a hero, you need to be an Invoker player first off, but the hero fits very well into this game, I would say. I had a few other thoughts in my mind, but none of them trumped the Invoker pick. And off the top of my head, I can't even remember what other mids I was contemplating.
Yeah.
Like TA wouldn't have been pickable here because TA sucks against freaking Arc Warden and
AA and CM to a degree at least.
Yeah. I was thinking about picking OD also, just because you can just astral after like they try to do anything to you.
Yeah, that kind of sucks though, because if you astral yourself, then they just put like a fucking mine on top of it, and you're like, oof, that wasn't a great idea.
Well, the mines are super slow, so you just blink away. But yeah.
I'm talking about laning phase.
Oh yeah, laning phase would have not been fun. I would have just abused him with Orb, but regardless, the laning phase was weird. We'll get into that later. But so the Invoker was, I would say, the perfect mid pick here. I really cannot think of a mid that would have been better.
Yeah, just the fact, like, as soon as you get Summon Forge Spirit, and then you just keep it next to you, and then his little dotty thing doesn't matter at all, like, that's huge. And then also it can eat the mines for you. That's, like, Invoker's just great against
Invoker traditionally is one of those heroes that, like, you just swap farm in a lot of matchups, but this is one of the few matchups that's, like, really decisively won by Invoker.
Oh, do you actually, kill him, or what?
Oh no! I mean, I had a.
I mean, I know you didn't kill him, but I mean, like that matchup wise, like how do you aggress on him? Like,
I mean, you don't aggress on it, but like Arc Warden, I find is miserable to play against in most matchups. So the fact that you don't lose the matchup is a win.
Okay, I thought you were saying like he just.
Oh no, you're not going to kill him realistically. I mean, you could maybe if you played Quas Wex with like 1 point Exort, you get the point in Exort just for like Alacrity and Forge Spirit to counter his dot.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't play Quas Wex in this game anyway. But it was a nice Invoker game. We actually have not played Invoker for this for Theorycraft Thursday yet. I don't think so. I was glad.
Oh no, I guess we haven't.
I don't think I really need to talk about Invoker specifics. You can watch how I played in the VOD.
Yeah, I mean, I said, if there's like Invoker has like a lot of crazy area effect stuff going on that like everyone gets hit by, the edge of a tornado that you didn't even mean to. Like, there's just a lot of stuff to disrupt or to like just kill the CM and the AA just if they exist. And even like Arc Warden Split Push, if he comes in and Boots of Travels in, you just drop like a tornado and a Deafening Blast, like Split Push dealt with. The thing is going to run out before before the disables are done with.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of squishy supports that I could kill.
And like a single Sunstrike.
Yeah, once we got into like the middle of the game, there was just no real threats to me, other than like me misplaying, right? And that's like the ideal situation, right? Is the only way I would have died is if I did stupid things on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did nearly die once because I did stupid things on my own.
Oh, yeah, hey, we both didn't die. That's great.
But yeah, so Invoker was a fine pick here. I'd say this would be like a textbook Invoker game. And also, I get to be greedy Invoker. One of the things you have to think about is Invoker can afford to build a bunch of defensive items. Commonly, you'll see people have BKB and Lincolns or one or the other. Yeah. But this is also one of those games where if you are snowballing, you don't need these items per se. I would have been building a BKB next because Arc Warden is actually a big problem once he has his Orchid up and all that DPS. But in the mid game, you can get away with just having Blink, Ags, and like a Wand and Midas. So
yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Because we could talk about Invoker for 30 minutes if I talk about specifics.
I mean, we can just go through the next two picks pretty quick. I mean, so next they pick up Bristleback, which was, I mean, Bristleback's a good hero, so that just kind of makes sense that they picked a good hero. He's not a great offlaner, but in pubs, it just kind of works out anyway. But that did kind of cement, all right, their team really just doesn't have any lockdown, so I was pretty happy with my Juggernaut pick after that. I think they would have been much better off going with, like an Axe or something like that.
More traditional offlaner.
Magnus, anything really.
Team fight.
But yeah, something with some kind of disable, like any kind of blink disable, I would have been very into for them. But I mean, Bristle's just broken in his own right, so that's not too bad. And then our guy wasn't too sure what they wanted to pick last, but I managed to throw out a bunch of suggestions, and he landed on Slardar, which I thought was actually turned out really, really well.
Yeah, it was a really nice synergy.
Yeah, the idea of what's it here? Arc Warden likes to build Shadowblade every so often, so that's cool. It's nice to be able to see him when we were killing him. Bristleback, Of course, if you make a tanky hero not tanky, that's great. Lycan, as I was saying earlier, a hero that wants to run into you is a hero that wants to not immediately get blown up. But Lycan is a very armor deficient hero, especially if you don't go for Armlet. Like Armlet gives him 9 armor. He has some of the lowest agi gain in the game. It's like 1.0 or some shit like that. Yeah. And until he gets AC, which is a long time away, like he just doesn't have any armor. So as soon as Slardar is dropping the corrosive haze on him, like he dies in 3 hits. It's like obscene. And then also, as we said, this area control that Arc Warden has, it's based on all these slows and stuff. But if you are a Blink Initiator or 2 Blink Initiators on our team, like we have Centaur and Slardar, so if any one of them isn't caught within all that bullshit that he's putting down, just one of them needs to blink on top of Arc Warden, and then Arc Warden's just kind of done. He doesn't really get away from that.
And more AoE control for the Lycan, too, on top of all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one more thing that's a stun and not a slow.
Yeah, so it was just the ideal pick. Let's just quickly go over the game and how it went, basically, and how the flow of each draft went. We won this game very decisively, I'd say, in 33 minutes and 31 seconds, with 30 to 15 kill score. Yep. We took the control of the game pretty quickly, I'd say. Right?
I want to say
our mid game.
I'd agree with that, but we kind of we didn't so much lose our lanes so much as
I lost my lane.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true. but I lost the beginning of my lane.
Yeah, they're at the very least, I would say that like we didn't have control of our lanes, right? Like we didn't lose them necessarily, but like we definitely didn't own them. We were just reacting to things. So like the fact that they had their CM and their AA kind of buffing up their lanes, and they did have these independent cores that were able to put out pressure. Like I think that did definitely work in their favor. Like we killed Bristleback a few times, but it's kind of like some of those games that we played when we were aggro duo. Like yeah, we would die a few times, but we also at no point felt like we were weaker than them, and we kept, we would keep pressuring regardless of if we died once or twice. And that's kind of how my lane was. Like, as soon as Arc Warden hit 6, they tried to attack me, and then Arc Warden just like TP'd his double in, and they like killed the lane kind of, and I had like a cool play where I was like in the jungle with like a healing ward and stuff, running around in circles, and like I got an Omni Slash once one of them was like kind of tapered off a bit. But like we were still getting pressured hardcore, and eventually I had to just like leave the safe lane and farm jungle with clarities and shit going the whole time. But like it's like we didn't really like their ability to help their lanes out and kind of like win their lanes, even though they weren't playing that great, was definitely there. But as you said, kind of as soon as we got our stuff together and hit a timing, like everything just kind of clicked and we snowballed.
Yeah, that's basically what really struck me comp wise for each team, is that their team was, like we said, they had a lot of they made us very discombobulated in the beginning. But as the game progressed, our team had a clear way to win, whereas their team was kind of just like, we're going to split push. Maybe we'll win a fight. If somebody's not there, who knows? We'll do whatever. But they kind of were playing on the edge of their seat, whereas we were relaxing and saying, all right, we have a blink timing now coming up. We have an Axe timing coming up. Let's go take a bottom tier tower. If our push didn't, we push, and then we healing ward back up, and then we go somewhere else, right? We had a very natural flow, where they had a very chaotic flow. And ours... So I would say one of the biggest things when I look at team comps, just as a general statement, is that some team comps require a lot. Some are very easy to execute, right? Our team comp is relatively easy to execute, but their team comp is very like, you need to have a lot of personal skill. You need to basically bank on the enemy team making dumb mistakes. You need to do a lot of things to set them off kilter. So that was another observation of mine. Well, I mean, that's basically how the game went, right? Like, our heroes just panned out better. I want to talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit quickly about my lane, and I was saying in the VOD even that my lane is a perfect example of how supports win games potentially, or at least win laning phase for certain people. My lane should have been good, right? We talked about Invoker as an Arc Warden counter and as a Arc Warden laning opponent, and it's generally a good matchup for the Invoker. Arc Warden is not a threat to me necessarily, and I'm not a terrible threat to him either, but that's not really important. The thing was, the second I got to my lane, the AA just ran me down, right? He smoked around on me, or he may not have even smoked, but he came around on me, he put a cold feet on me, he and Arc Warden hit me a few times, I had to run away, and the way he positioned himself, which you'll see in the VOD, it's only a few minutes in, he positioned himself on the high ground, and then cold feeded me. I was forced to run through the river towards Top Rune, because if I ran backwards, I would have taken way more damage and potentially died, I think, due to my own positioning. And this is partially a misplay on my own, because I should have just not been there, but you never expect an AA to roam on you at minute 0 with cold feet.
Yeah, that's not really the play most of the time.
Yeah, and so this roaming AA resulted in me having to go all the way around, because again, his positioning was really good, and I had to make basically an entire lap around the map. I did not have my salve yet because it was so fast. Like this was literally 0 minute, and then by the time I get back to lane, I have to pop the salve I'm ferrying out.
Yeah, and like buy a new one or some shit.
Yeah, well, I just bought my first one, but normally I wouldn't even buy a salve on Invoker necessarily, because I have Quas, right? And like, what the heck's that going to do to me?
You do have that healing mechanic.
And so by the time I get back to lane and all this is over, Arc Warden's nearly level 3, and I've not gotten a single point of XP other than the 0 minute rune.
Yeah, that's like insane.
And then like my lane becomes incredibly difficult. I clearly remember his first ultimate that he uses. I was level 4 and 3/4, and he's level 6, and he bullies me with ult and like puts a bunch of damage on my tower and all this. So
yeah, that's not a fun time.
This is just textbook. Even if you're not, like, people always talk about like, oh, Spirit Breaker's in my lane, or oh, Night Stalker's harassing me, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm watching this now. This is awful. Yeah, you walk to the fucking like offlaner's shrine. Yeah. Oh Jesus, this is so like, bad.
If I walk backwards, I'm gonna die to an Arc Warden who has bombs.
And he just like shows up and hits you again. Jesus Christ.
It was one of the most miserable things, and a large part was you never expect that from an AA, right? You expect to get aggressed upon if it's like an Earth Shaker or they pick whatever. So this guy literally just brutalized my laning phase, and eventually I came back.
God, and you got hit by that fucking mine at the end too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was like ready to pop my fairy fire too. It was truly, truly miserable. So
man, your life
that was
sucks.
just a good example of like, if you are a support, you can do the little things like that. And just that one element of aggression that was executed well by a 5-position AA with no items, I think he had like a windlace, was catastrophic for my laning phase. And eventually I pulled it back because of the laning matchup being favored for me just in general, and also he made a rotation that allowed me to free farm and get his tower. And I outdamaged him, and like I was just a better player, like mechanically. But I would have dominated that guy if it was not for that one random AA that committed, a minute of his time to ruin my life for like a while. So that's, that was just a big thing that jumped out at me. It delayed my Midas by like a couple minutes. Like it was absolutely awful. So, if you're a supports win games, support wins lanes for people, even mid laners. Yeah. So go for it. That was big. Like honestly, I would just watch the VOD just for that first 5 minutes and watch that AA.
Yeah, it was honestly pretty impressive. Like, his positioning did kind of just destroy you entirely. Like, there were like 5 ways that I'm like, oh, okay, you can just kind of like walk back around and then you're fine. But like, nope. Every time you showed up somewhere, it was like, hey, if you walk there, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and it's so early, right? Like, it sets the entire tone for the laning phase. It was just it was just excellent play from the AA.
Yeah, no, that's like super cool, honestly.
And it was all off of like his good play, but also like I made one small misstep and got a little too close to the lane, and then he gets all of that off of me. So supports good, do it.
Good stuff.
All right, especially on Invoker. Like Invoker's terrible at level 1. He's like arguably the worst hero at level 1.
Yeah,
or not even arguably. I would just say flat out, he's the worst hero at level 1.
Yeah,
like, in general. Actually, never mind. You have Invoker level 1, so maybe there are worse heroes, but I can't think of any.
Yeah, I'm sure there's one.
Bristleback that starts goo. I don't know.
Yeah, that one's not too great, huh?
Yeah, and no. No. All right, so that's about that. Let's just close it off. This is actually a lot of fun. Maybe we should do this more frequently, every once in a while.
I'll talk about the Jugg. It's a Jugg a little bit. There's not too much crazy about this dude. I guess the main thing that I was focusing on this game was just how variable my itemization was.
Yeah.
This patch I've been doing a lot of. Pretty much 100% of the time you go Phase, Wand, and Aquila. Whatever order that you need shop wise. Starting with a Poor Man's Shield, of course, and the Clarity, and Tango's rather. 2 Slippers, Tango Salve, Clarity is my start, and then you finish Poor Man's Shield at Side Shop, and then, Quelling and Boots and Stick or whatever. So anyway, as far as greater itemization goes, I've been liking getting Maelstrom right after the Wand Aquila stuff, and that's just like straight up expedite your farming, and it's cheaper than Battle Fury, and it builds into something late game, and I've just been liking it pretty well. You don't really need the healing from Battle Fury too much because you have Healing Ward, and the mana regen kind of sucks if you're spamming Healing Ward, but I think I bought probably 5 Clarities that game, if not more, and I'm a huge fan of Clarities on Juggernaut these days. So I had 2 in my inventory waiting for me pretty much all of the time. Just like in my stash, 2 extra Clarities. So I'd highly recommend, if you're playing Jugg and can't really figure out how you're supposed to play Jugg without a regen item, the answer is Clarities. You just buy a shit ton of Clarities. But so this game we were against, so I knew I would need the Manta style because there's a CM, there's an AA, there's an Arc Warden, there's goo stacks to get off. Like, I have to go Manta. There's no buts about it. I want to get it. And I also want a Silver Edge at some point for Bristleback because Jugg is not the worst Silver Edge carrier in the game. And also, I'd like an MKB at some point for Arc Warden. So I was like, all right, there's no way to fit a Mjolnir or a Maelstrom into this game. I'm just going to go straight for the Manta. And then I'm not worried too much about Bristleback having like evasion and stuff the evasion is more of a big deal as the game kind of goes on, but early on it's not too hard to deal with because we have a bunch of magic damage and stuff. I'm more worried about just cutting off his Bristleback period. So I got the Silver Edge earlier. Also, it's harder for them to deal with the fact that I can go Invis the earlier I get it. So I ended up with Manta and then Silver Edge, and we pretty much won the game by that point, but I was aiming for getting the MKB after. So I just figured out what items I was going to need, the MKB and the Silver Edge, as well as the Manta as early as possible. I thought about which one would be best earlier, and it was the Silver Edge was definitely better earlier on, and MKB I was going to get after that and just kind of take it from there and find out what item I needed.
Yeah, it's nice to have. I mean, Jugg, on top of all the good things we said about him earlier, pick wise, as a fundamental hero, but itemization wise, having any hero that can vary their items greatly and adapt is huge. And this game was a perfect example of that. Even though you didn't do anything super weird, like the ability for you to adapt, especially as a third pick carry, is a big deal for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of heroes that just they don't build MKB well. Like if I was Sven instead of Juggernaut or something, like the shit, what is that? Arc Warden. I keep forgetting his name. Arc Warden's bubble. Like Sven just doesn't deal well with that. He has to get inside of the bubble. He's not going to attack into it. But Juggernaut doesn't give a shit. Juggernaut's like, fuck, I'll build an MKB, whatever, it's fine. But other carries, not so much. So that's one reason that I really have been liking Jugg this patch. It's fine with going Silver Edge, fine with going MKB, and those are kind of the two most the two highlight situational items that I've been thinking about this patch, between Solar Crest giving everyone evasion and Bristleback needing to be broken with the Silver Edge effect. Like those are both here items that you need to think about whether or not you're going to need to build.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Invoker plus Jugg is a great duo, like core duo that covers a lot of bases. So
yeah, Jugg can fight early while Invoker's kind of powering up, and then they're both fine late game. They're definitely good together. They both push well. Sure.
Yeah. All right. So this was fun. You can watch the VODs for this game on youtube.com/.ptv1, of course. It was fun. I like playing Invoker. I haven't been able to play Invoker on the show yet, so this was a fun game to do. Yeah. All right, maybe we'll do this concept again in the future, too. If people like it, let us know on Discord, discord.gg/.p, or Twitter, twitter.com. Well, I don't know actually the specific links, but I'm at Ursinity, and Proud is at Proud Dota. And our show is at .p_show. So again, feedback for this concept, because I'm a little, I think it was fun, but maybe people hate it. Who knows?
Probably everyone hates it.
Also give us iTunes reviews on iTunes. Big surprise. You can email questions in for the Tuesday Q&A. We also record the Tuesday Q&A live at 9 Eastern. We didn't this week due to some scheduling problems, but next week we will be back in Raring. So if you want to be live on the show, you can be there. And also questions at defensepations@gmail.com. What else? What else do we plug, Proud?
That's it.
Twitch, twitch.tv/.btv.
Oh, never mind.
And yeah, this has been our theory and our explanation of our theory. So hopefully it was fun. And if it didn't work out, blame your 5400 that insists on randoming Lycan.
Yeah, that was not the play.